Well, we're out here by what we call the garden patch. We're ready to plant some of our plants today. We've been kind of putting it off. And we're going to be planting some okra here in this patch. In this patch I've laid plastic. We've also got green onions over here, and this is my garlic patch over here. We've got a lot. This is by the greenhouses, and I'm going to have the kids help me, and we're going to be planting the okra 18 inches apart on center, and a staggered double line. So there'll be 2 rows of okra in this row of plastic, and we'll set it in from the edge a little ways. First thing I have to do while the kids are planting is get some irrigation going on this. This is a drip line that is laid underneath the plastic rows, and I need to get a blue feeder hose with the proper attachments and hook it up to this so that we can hook a hose to that and then start irrigating these, because the ground is very dry underneath the plastic. Well, it took a little doing, but I think I've found all the pieces that I need to get this strip line hooked up. And this is a multi-part deal here. This is a hose fitting. This will fit the end of the hose. Then it's got a little nipple attaching to this thing, and then this is a barb fitting that will go in the end of the large feeder hose. This is a plug for the end of the hose. Sometimes I will just use boards and clamp them on the end, or fold it over and screw it together, and then hose clamps for that. One of the bigger challenges actually on getting these setups together is sometimes getting this barb fitting into this hose. For some reason these are just a little bit too big and these are a little bit too small, and we've tried various approaches over the years, putting heavy grease on them and heating this part so that it expands a little bit, and those all work, but it's just a real pain. As you can see, it's like right there, but it's not quite big enough to actually go on.
I really kind of think that heating it works the best, like maybe a hair dryer.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I've used a torch before too, because when you're out in the field you don't have a...
Yeah, torch might be a little too much, but I think, yeah, I was trying to think of what what Dad used to do, but it's, look at that hose matches your shirt. It's like we planned it out or something. I wonder if you could just put it in really hot water.
Maybe. But it's not going to go just by itself.
Say hi.
So I'm trying some hot water. I heated this little cup of water in the microwave. It was boiling. I'm going to put the end of the hose in it. Try to soften it up a little bit. Alright, let's see what happens. My dad used to do a lot of this, he used to handle the irrigation a lot, because irrigation is a thing that kind of one person needs to be in charge of. Otherwise you end up irrigating too much, or you think it's somebody else did it and it doesn't get done, and then stuff dies. So it was usually Dad that would do that.
Well, it's looking like hot water didn't do the trick. I expect that the older the blue lay flat pipe is, the harder it is probably kind of shrinks a little.
I don't know, it's always this hard.
Okay.
Well, I just got it further than I've done before. Which isn't saying too much. That might be enough right there.
I don't know.
We hardly ever get them all the way on because they are just so hard. It's under low pressure all the time. So if I can clamp it really tight, that might hold. You can never put these under high pressure because they'll blow your drip lines.
Make sure you don't stab yourself in the hand with that screwdriver.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time. I don't know why, but they design these with basically shoulders that are curved. They don't put a... I really ought to be using a drill to put it on with a hex bit.
Yeah.
5/16 I think is what it is. In fact, I'm going to do that.
What is it?
One of the downsides of this fitting is it doesn't twist like most female ends of hoses do. So something has to give somewhere. For this first hookup, I'm just going to twist my feeder line and then untwist it, but that's not a good long-term strategy. Probably what I'll do is take this fitting loose a little bit and let this spin in place during future hookups and non-hookups. So you try to start out with it laying flat and even all the way across. You'll be grateful you did later, because what you want to try to do is get it where it just kind of lays naturally, and then when you cut your holes, you want them all in the exact same line. Otherwise your feeder line is trying to twist as you have your drip lines coming into it. Like one will be here and one will be here, and either your drip lines crimped here a little bit or something has to twist. It's a real pain. Whenever you're at the end that you're feeding your irrigation from, you always want to make sure you leave plenty of slack. This is probably too much, but because you never know quite where you're going to need to lay your feeder hose. Like I may have had to lay it out here, and if I did, for whatever reason, then if I put it back there, then I'm going to end up putting a splice in there and use up my splices, and it is another opportunity to leak. So it doesn't cost very much per foot. It's better to leave it a few feet extra long and then cut it off to what you need. I'm getting these laid out, and then I'm going to turn my water on and flush this blue hose out because it has some dirt and dust in it, and I don't want that to go down my drip lines because it'll clog up the little holes. I'm going to plug the end of the line here. See how this one goes in. seems like these plugs usually go a little easier. I think they must be ever so slightly smaller diameter or something. And that, I'm going to call that good enough. As long as I can get a clamp on those barbs. And of course that one's bigger than 5/16. It must be 3/8. And I don't have that with me, so screwdriver it is. But at least it's squared shoulders on the flathead. This is always scary because it just takes one little slip and you stab your screwdriver into your palm. It does not feel good. Okay.
Irrigation. Drip tape requires low pressure. Only 8 to 15 psi at the headlines will give approximately 10 psi in the drip line.
I'm going to go ahead and just lower it way down. You twist this in. So this, it has a control valve here, which is spring-loaded inside that controls your pressure. This will give you a PSI readout on the downhill side. It's got a little screen to screen out debris, which you have to watch because these will clog up with stuff, and then you're actually not getting any water even if you turn it on. So that's that basically. We just have one hydrant set back here, and so we have 4 potential lines set up to it. This one I actually need to work on one of these days because the hose came off and that thing's stuck on there pretty good. So we're not using that one, but we do use 3 regularly, and that allows us to turn on some things and not others. And not have to unhook and rehook all the time, which saves a lot of time. This is the second pressure gauge that I have on here, obviously. This one is feeding what we call greenhouse number 3, which is the one right next to me. It keeps the lines from bursting. So it's possible to control your pressure by turning these on a small amount and just kind of feeling your lines, and then, you know, see if you got enough or too much, and then turn it down a little more. It's also possible, and we've done this in the past too, just lift this handle a certain amount. Neither of those are very precise, and they're really kind of a pain. And if you get too much, you end up blowing a line. If you don't get enough, it doesn't open the pores on the drip line, and so it will drip in the easiest to drip places, but not in the harder to drip places, so you'll end up with dry stretches. This really allows you to take the guesswork out of it and kind of dial it down to a bit more of a science than just, you know, random chance each time. And it saves time because you don't have to reset your pressure. And also I can, you know, in my case, I can just say, kids, go out here and turn on this line and turn it on full, because the kids probably aren't able to figure out that pressure. The pressure started moving up. The needle moved off of 0. So I turned it down, and now turn it up. You'll hear it hissing whenever you start actually gaining in pressure. Since this is a long hose run, I'm going to run it a little bit higher. Probably about 12 pounds or so is what I'm shooting for. Alright, I'm going to go with that about there for now. So now I have to go back across and hook up my actual drip lines. So here's the feeder line, and I would guess that's a little more pressure than I want, but we'll see after I actually get water running how it feels. Okay, so you got your drip line coming in, you try to keep everything straight, and then this is the valve that will go in there. It has a barb on one side, and that will tighten down and like crimp onto the hose and stop it from leaking. And then it has a spider web inside of it. I'll blow that out actually. And this side goes on the drip line. And then these have been run over by the tractor and stuff. This is obviously open and closed. So when you're hooking these up, you want to open them and Then I have this little tool. This has like a saw edge on the end of it. And this lets me cut a perfectly sized hole for this barb fitting. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then water's going to squirt.
And so I'm going to back up because water's going to go everywhere.
Get my knife out and ready. Okay, so I'm trying to go on the flat part of the hose here. And okay, so you want your valve open because you don't want to be fighting the pressure as you put it in. Inside didn't cut all the way. Hopefully it's okay. You want it to be able to just flow through. Okay, so I got that on. Now I'm going to tighten this down. You don't have to use tools on these, just finger tight is good enough. Okay, so we got that. I'm going to go ahead and shut it off. Then I get this to the proper distance. Cut it. We usually try to put the blue side down because this is where the holes are. All right, so let me do that. And now water will flow through it. The other ends are not tied off yet. I do that on purpose because I like to flush any debris that might have accumulated in the hose out so that it doesn't clog up any of the pores. But I'm going to turn it off for now because I got to hook the other three up. Well, that's the last one, last strip line. I'm going to turn them all on and then we'll go to the other end and get them tied off. Alright, so this is the other end. I've already let it run out some, so it should be good. It was new line, so shouldn't have too much in it. So what we do on the ends typically is we tie multiple overlapping knots. It's surprisingly hard to get this to fully stop leaking. Like that will probably still leak a little bit. This is the last one, and then we'll kind of check them and see how the pressure is. Just found a little roofing nail. Always watching out for stuff like that. Seems like no matter how hard you try, there are always nails laying around on a farm.
Well, we did have a little wooden greenhouse right here, so that's what that's from.
Yep. This is my garlic patch. This is elephant garlic mostly. I have a little bit of other stuff in here. And I have some shallots that I'm trying to multiply out. But this makes a lot of garlic for us. I have it in slightly raised beds that we've just scooped higher and then mulched over with sawdust mostly, but also leaves and other things just to keep the weeds down. It does a pretty good job of keeping the weeds out. You still got to pull some though. This will be ready actually about the end of this month. It's not too far really, it's turning already. We have been picking scapes off of these and eating them. We also had to pick some and drop them, but we have a few more. I think this is actually regular garlic that has survived. So these are probably a little bit later producing. They make really good additions to soups and stir fries and stuff. They're a nice mild garlic onion flavor. They're good chopped up and fried with eggs as well. These are the elephant garlic ones. As you can see, they're a lot bigger.
If you give them to me, I'll go take them to Galilee and she can put them in lunch.
Okay. Here you go. Those are really curly.